Gail once told me straight to my face, "You're just too boring. You'll never be someone who matters." She said it with a smile, like she was doing me a favor by being honest. I stood there holding the tiny birthday cake I had bought for her, feeling like an idiot. She took the cake, blew out the candle without making a wish, and walked away, leaving me standing alone under the flickering lights of that cheap cafe. That night, I sat on the edge of my bed staring at my cracked phone screen, reading her final message over and over. "Good luck, Jimmy. I need someone exciting, someone the world actually notices." I didn't even argue. I just typed back, "Take care," and watched the 3 dots appear, then disappear. Maybe she thought I'd beg. Maybe she thought I'd cry. But I didn't. I closed the chat, turned off my phone, and pulled out the old camera I hadn't touched since high school. That night, I posted my first video, just a random thought I had while sitting there, still wearing the jacket she said made me look like a grandpa. By the next morning, I had 12 views, then 100, then 1,000. I didn't stop. Every night after work, after class, after whatever excuse life threw at me, I filmed. I edited on cracked screens, posted with trembling fingers, and ignored every voice in my head telling me I wasn't good enough. And now, months later, when I check the comments under my videos, there's always one familiar account watching silently. No likes, no comments, just views. Over and over again. Gail. The same girl who said I was boring now watches me go viral every single day. And the funny part? I still haven't even started showing the world who I really am. My name is Jimmy Lin, 21 years old, majoring in digital arts at a local university nobody really cares about. Before all this, I was the guy who blended into the background. I wasn't ugly, but I wasn't striking either. I wasn't stupid, but nobody called me brilliant. Average in every way. I met Gail during orientation week. She wasn't the loudest girl in the room, but she didn't need to be. She had this quiet magnetism that pulled people in without trying. Long, dark hair, always curled perfectly at the ends, eyes that looked like they were hiding secrets she would never share. She could smile at you once, and you'd find yourself. Thinking about it for the next 3 days, I was smitten from the start, and somehow, by some miracle or maybe just boredom on her part, we ended up together. Our relationship wasn't explosive, not the way you see in movies. It was quiet, simple. Dates at cafes, walking under the campus cherry blossoms, movie nights where I let her pick every time. I thought that was enough. I thought being steady, being loyal, being there was enough. But slowly, small cracks started showing. Gail loved excitement. She loved being surprised. Weekend trips, secret dates, spontaneous adventures. She wanted stories worth telling. And I was content with movie nights and takeout food. I thought giving her peace was a gift. I didn't realize she was looking for fireworks. She started comparing me to others. First subtly, then openly. Larson took his girlfriend to Bali last month, she said once while scrolling through her phone. They didn't even plan it. He just booked it out of nowhere. She didn't even look at me when she said it. Just let the words hang there, sharp and obvious. Another time, when we passed a street performer juggling knives, she turned to me and laughed. "See, Jimmy? Some people actually take risks. They live." I laughed with her that day, pretending it didn't sting. Pretending I didn't hear the silent accusation in her voice. And then there was Christina. Christina was Gail's best friend. Blonde, loud, fearless. She never liked me. She'd shoot me these fake smiles and tell Gail, half joking, half serious, "You need a man who's electric, not beige." Gail would laugh like it was harmless teasing. But it wasn't harmless. It was gasoline poured over dry wood, waiting for the smallest spark. The end came faster than I expected. It was Gail's birthday. I saved up for weeks to buy her a necklace. She had pointed it once in a shop window. Silver, delicate, with a small emerald at the center. It wasn't expensive by rich standards, but it had cost me skipping meals and working extra hours at the campus cafe. When I gave it to her, she smiled politely, the way you smile at a little kid who brings you a crayon drawing. "Thank you," she said, clipping it on herself in front of the cafe mirror. "It's cute. Not beautiful, Not perfect, just cute. We sat across from each other in that cheap booth, 2 slices of cake between us, a cup of coffee growing cold. She fiddled, with her phone, not even pretending to be interested in conversation. Finally, she said it. "Jimmy, you're a good guy, but I need someone more. Someone who makes my heart race, someone people envy. You're just too boring. I'm sorry." I didn't move, I didn't blink, I didn't beg either. Maybe deep down I'd already seen this coming. I nodded once, pushed the cake toward her. "Happy birthday, Gail." She left after that. No tears, no dramatic goodbye. Just a message later that night. "Good luck, Jimmy. I hope you find someone who appreciates simple things." I stared at that message for a long time, then I deleted her number, and for the first time in months, I pulled out my old camera. It still smelled like dust and old dreams. I charged it. I posted my first video. I didn't know what I was doing, didn't even expect anyone to watch. I was just tired of feeling invisible, tired of living in the corners of other people's lives. In the beginning, it was just small things, little funny sketches, stories from my shifts at the cafe, random thoughts about life, love, and how weird it feels when your heart breaks without making a sound. 12 views became 50. 50 became 500. Then 5,000. Then 10,000. I watched in disbelief as my subscriber count ticked upward, and somewhere out there, Gail was watching too, always silent, always lurking, never commenting, never liking, but always there. Watching. The first time I realized something was wrong was a Tuesday afternoon, when I uploaded a short video about the worst customer I'd ever served at the cafe. It was barely 2 minutes long, a simple story, told in my usual dry, deadpan style. Nothing flashy, no special effects, just honesty. By nightfall, the video had passed 30,000 views. I thought it was a fluke. I thought maybe the algorithm was playing games. Then the messages started pouring in. "Man, you're hilarious. Finally, someone who gets it. Subbed. Keep it up, bro." I sat there staring at the screen, heart pounding, while the comments multiplied, like wildfire. My phone buzzed nonstop on the nightstand, and among the flood of notifications, I saw it. A view, no comment, no like. But the account name was unmistakable. Gail.jade. The girl who said I was too boring to matter had watched the video where I made 30,000 strangers laugh in a single day. The next week was a blur. Every day I posted. Every day, the numbers grew. Views turned into followers. Followers turned into fans. People started sharing my videos on their stories, tagging me, sending me DMs about how much they loved my honesty, my dry humor, my way of talking about the little heartbreaks of everyday life. It was everything Gail once said I lacked. One night, after a particularly big spike, a video where I ranted about overpriced campus vending machines crossed 100,000 views. I got a text from Christina. I hadn't heard from her since the breakup. "Hey Jimmy," it read. "Saw your video. Congrats on blowing up." No smiley faces, no emojis. It felt off. I stared at the message for a while before typing back, "Thanks." She responded almost instantly. "You know, Gail always said you had potential. She just wanted you to push yourself more." I almost laughed. Gail hadn't just given up on me. She had tossed me aside like a used ticket stub. She hadn't said I had potential. She said I was boring, forgettable, invisible. Still, I didn't argue. I just put the phone down and went back to editing. But that wasn't the end of it. Christina kept messaging me. Little comments, little jabs, sometimes compliments that felt more like hooks. "That jacket you wore in today's video? Way better than your grandpa's sweater days." "Not bad, Jimmy. You're turning into someone worth noticing. You must be getting a lot of attention now. Hope you don't forget who believed in you first." The irony was almost too much to handle. Believed in me? They laughed at me behind my back, compared me to every other guy who had a car, money, or a passport full of stamps. Now that I was getting attention, suddenly they wanted to rewrite the story. Suddenly, they wanted to act like they were part of my success. But the worst betrayal wasn't Christina's texts. It was what came next. One night, after another video hit trending, I opened my messages to find one from Larson. Larson, the guy Gail once praised for his impulsive trips and exciting life. "Yo, man," he wrote, "heard you're doing pretty well. Gail's been talking about you a lot lately, said you're killing it. We should catch up sometime." Catch up? We'd barely spoken when Gail and I were together. I ignored the message. I didn't owe him anything. But a few days later, while scrolling through campus gossip forums, I saw a post that made my stomach twist. It was a blurry photo of Gail and Larson at a party, laughing, drinking. Gail in a tiny silver dress, clinging to Larson's arm like she was afraid of slipping off the earth. The caption underneath cut deeper than any knife. "Leveling up, some guys are just a phase, some are permanent." It didn't mention me by name, but it didn't have to. Everyone knew who it was aimed at. For a moment, I just sat there, staring at the screen, my fingers clenched around the phone, so tightly the plastic casing creaked. So that was it. Gail hadn't just moved on. She had downgraded me to a phase, a stepping stone, a background character in her perfect little storyline. Larson, the spontaneous thrill seeker. Larson, the guy with the Instagram perfect life. Larson, who probably couldn't string together 3 coherent thoughts but could book a Bali trip at the drop of a hat. And me? I was just boring old Jimmy, the guy who bought her a cake and a necklace and thought that would be enough. The anger didn't come right away. It was slower, deeper, like a crack working its way through concrete. I didn't cry. I didn't message her. I didn't try to explain myself. I just picked up my camera and hit record. I thought ignoring it would be easy. I thought if I just kept working, kept filming, kept editing, the bitterness sitting in my chest would burn itself out like a fire with no fuel left. But it didn't. It grew. It sat there inside me, smoldering, poisoning every thought whether I wanted it to or not. Every time I hit upload, I wondered if Gail would see it. I wondered if she'd laugh at it with Larson curled up beside her. I wondered if she'd pick apart my jokes, my expressions, my words, finding ways to mock them like she used to in private when she thought it was funny, and it hurt. God, it hurt. Not because I wanted her back. That door had slammed shut, and I wasn't dumb enough to open it again. It hurt because part of me, a part I hated, still wanted her to notice. Still wanted her to regret it. Still wanted her to look at the life she thought was better and wonder if she'd made the biggest mistake of her life. That part of me disgusted myself. At night, when the world went quiet and the only sound was the soft hum of my laptop fan, I lay awake thinking about everything I'd done wrong. Maybe if I'd been more spontaneous. Maybe if I'd been more exciting. Maybe if I'd been someone who didn't need to think so much before he acted. It's funny how your brain can weaponize your own memories against you. Every nice thing Gail ever said to me twisted into a reminder that I wasn't enough. Every smile, every touch, every kiss rewritten in neon letters spelling out one ugly word: failure. I hated it. I hated that even after everything, part of me still wondered what I could have done differently. Worse, it felt like the universe was mocking me too. After that blurry party photo went viral on campus forums, I couldn't walk to class without overhearing whispers. People didn't even try to hide it. That's him, the boring one. No wonder she left him. He looked so average in real life. I kept my head down, pretended I didn't hear, pretended it didn't matter. But every whisper was a crack in the dam. I thought about quitting. I thought about deleting everything, the videos, the channel, the comments, and disappearing into some corner of the internet where nobody knew my name. It would have been easy. One button, 1 second of weakness. But then I thought about the people who had messaged me late at night, telling me that my dumb jokes got them through a bad day. I thought about the girl who said my story about getting fired from my first cafe. Job helped her laugh after a messy breakup. I thought about the guy who said my rants about vending machines made him feel less alone on a campus that didn't care if he existed. And I realized something. I didn't have to be exciting for Gail. I didn't have to be impressive for Larson. I didn't have to be amazing for Christina or anyone else who thought I wasn't shiny enough to be worth something. I just had to be real. That night, I sat down in front of my camera without a script, no editing plan, no jokes prepared. I just talked about heartbreak, about feeling invisible, about how sometimes the people you love the most can't see you at all, about how sometimes, no matter how hard you try, you'll never be enough for someone who doesn't know how to appreciate simple things. And when I finished, I didn't even watch it back. I hit upload, and I went to sleep without checking the views once. When I woke up the next morning, my phone was on fire. 100,000 views. 200,000. 500,000. People weren't just watching. They were sharing, commenting, messaging, telling their own stories, thanking me for saying what they didn't know how to say. Somewhere in that endless flood of messages, buried between strangers. Heartbreaks and encouragements, I saw it again. Gail.jadenolike. No comment. Just watching. Always watching. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel invisible. I felt seen. Not by her. Not by Larson. Not by the people who had laughed at me behind closed doors. By the people who mattered. By the people who understood. By myself. The surge didn't stop. My video kept climbing until even people outside the campus bubble started noticing. Brands reached out. Podcasts wanted interviews. Local newspapers sent emails. Everything was moving so fast it barely felt real. But when something good happens, it's like the people who used to ignore you suddenly start seeing you again. And not always for the right reasons. One evening while checking my DMs, I spotted a message that made my blood run cold. It wasn't from Gail. It wasn't from Christina. It was from Larson. Yo, Jimmy, it said. Saw your video trending again. Gail keeps watching all your stuff. Honestly, it's kinda weird. She's acting like you're some huge deal now. We should grab a drink sometime, bro. Catch up properly. Bro, catch up properly? As if we'd ever been friends. As if he hadn't paraded around campus with Gail on his arm like he was showing. Off a prize he stole. I didn't answer. I tossed my phone onto my bed and stared at the ceiling, heart thudding in my ears. It was pathetic. Not just them, me too. The fact that a part of me even cared enough to be this angry proved I wasn't as over it as I thought, but it didn't end there. The next day, someone leaked an audio recording to one of the biggest student gossip pages. It was a conversation. Gail's voice unmistakable, light and sweet, but dripping with condescension. I mean, Jimmy's funny now, I guess. But it's just luck. He got lucky with some videos. He's still the same boring guy deep down. He'll never be anything serious. Someone else laughed in the background. Larson, probably. Christina, maybe. The page didn't tag me, but everyone knew who they were talking about. Within an hour, my messages flooded. Some people sent screenshots. Some sent apologies, as if they personally felt guilty hearing it. A few told me to clap back. A few told me to ignore it. I sat there, scrolling, feeling my hands shake, not from sadness, not even from anger, from something sharper, something cleaner. Resolve. If Gail thought she could still control the story, if she thought she could still paint me as the boring one, the joke, the nobody, she was about to find out just how wrong she was. I wasn't the same guy holding a birthday cake alone in a cheap cafe. I wasn't the guy who needed validation from people who never understood him. I had an audience now. I had a voice. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid to use it. I didn't announce anything. I didn't make a dramatic post. I didn't throw a tantrum in a story or tag anyone. That wasn't my style. Instead, I filmed a new video. Just me, sitting by the window at dusk, the city skyline turning gold behind me. No edits, no jump cuts, no flashy intro music, just my voice, calm and even. I talked about the masks people wear, how sometimes the loudest laughter hides the deepest insecurities, how the people who belittle others are often the ones most terrified of being forgotten. I didn't mention names. I didn't need to. Anyone who had heard that leaked audio knew exactly who I was talking about. I ended the video with one line, "Being boring is a lot better than being bitter," and I uploaded it. For a while, nothing happened. I went to the campus cafe, ordered my usual coffee, and sat at the corner table like I always did. People looked at me differently now. Some smiled. Some avoided my eyes. A few whispered when they thought I couldn't hear. But I didn't care. I sipped my coffee, watching the world spin around me, detached and free. Then my phone buzzed. Once, then again. Then so fast it barely stopped vibrating. My video was exploding. Hundreds of thousands of views within the first hour. Tens of thousands of comments flooding in. People sharing their own experiences of being ridiculed, belittled, underestimated. And mixed into that flood, like a rotting leaf swept along in a river, was Gail's name. Someone had tagged her account directly. Someone else had screen recorded the leaked audio and paired it with clips of my old videos, the ones where I talked about feeling invisible, about trying to love someone who only loved the idea of being admired. The comments turned savage. So boring he built a career while you built resentment. You chose Larson, girl. Stay there. Imagine giving up a loyal guy for a clout chaser. Couldn't be me. This aged like milk. Gail didn't respond publicly. She couldn't. Anything she said would only make it worse. The perfect image she built, the girl with the perfect boyfriend, the perfect adventures, the perfect life, was crumbling under the weight of her own words. Later that evening, when the sky was turning deep blue, I got another message. This time, it wasn't Christina trying to slither back into my orbit. It was Gail. Can we talk? Just 3 words. No punctuation, no explanation. For a long time, I just stared at the message. I didn't feel satisfaction. I didn't feel pity. I didn't even feel anger. I felt nothing. The kind of nothing you feel when you finally let go of a heavy backpack you didn't realize you were carrying. I didn't answer. I put the phone down, and a few minutes later a call came through. Gail. I let it ring. 5 times. 6. Until it stopped. Another message. Longer this time. Jimmy, I'm sorry. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I was stupid. I miss you. I miss the way you made me feel safe. Nobody else has ever really understood me like you did. It was almost funny. She wasn't apologizing because she realized what she'd done. She was apologizing because she was scared. Scared of losing the one person who saw her without the makeup, without the perfect poses, without the endless performance, and now that person had learned how to live without her. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my camera again. New video, new words. I talked about closure. About how sometimes you don't get an apology that feels satisfying. About how sometimes the people who hurt you the most are the ones who will never really admit it. And that's okay, because you don't need their apology to move on. You just need to decide that you're done carrying them with you. I posted it, without even checking for typos. By midnight, it had 1 million views. Campus forums erupted again. Screenshots of Gail's messages leaked, probably from someone she had confided in. Everyone saw her apologies. Everyone saw her trying to crawl back, and they saw my silence. Nothing is louder than choosing not to answer. The next few days were a blur of schoolwork, brand deals, interviews. People I hadn't talked to in years suddenly wanted to grab coffee, catch up, be part of my life again, but I kept my circle tight. David, a guy from my statistics class who once gave me his umbrella during a storm without asking for anything in return. Marcy, a barista at the cafe who always slipped an extra cookie into my bag when she thought nobody was looking. Real people. Real friends. Not the ones who only remembered your name once it started flashing on their screens. One afternoon, while walking across the quad, I saw them, Gail and Larson. They weren't holding hands. They weren't laughing. They looked strained, brittle, like a rubber band stretched too thin. Larson said something sharp. Gail's mouth tightened. She looked up and caught my eye. For a moment, time froze. She looked like she wanted to say something. Maybe apologize, maybe lash out, maybe beg. I didn't stop walking. I didn't slow down. I didn't even blink. I just kept going. Past the girl who once called me boring. Past the guy who thought he was better. past the version of myself who would have cared. And I smiled. Because, in the end, it wasn't about going viral. It wasn't about followers or views or brand deals. It was about knowing who I was and never letting someone else define that for me again.